Oh. First live.
Hey, everybody, we're live.
First live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
You know what? Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. We are live here from the digital desk, broadcasting to you from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. We are live streaming on our social media channels, on our website, and on our apps, and appreciate you all joining here today. And you get to join in the conversation as well. So if you're on those social media channels, feel free to chime in. But right now, we are talking about the West Coast Giant Pumpkin Regatta, a very grand name indeed, and it's a grand event that happens every year out in Tualatin, where people grow essentially giant pumpkins, as it says there, and then have a competition with them, and then try to go use them as boats. We're going to explain all of that, and we're going to show some footage of that. To explain this madness, though, we have Jim Sherwood, one of the co-founders of this event. And Jim, thank you very much for joining us here today. I'm excited to talk about this, and I think, you know, since we're talking about this thing, it happens every year, we have to find out some more about the history of this, of why and how this event got started.
Well, it's kind of funny, Greg. You know, just the hobby of growing giant pumpkins in and of itself is kind of crazy. But we spend countless hours throughout the year growing these pumpkins for competition. And at the end of the year, we just needed to do something with them to blow off a little steam. We drop them from cranes, we blow them up with tannerite, and but we got the idea to kind of get the whole group involved. And there's a couple other groups around the country that were doing this on a small scale, and we just kind of thought that it would be the thing to do. And about 20 years ago, we had our first race. There was about 15 of us, carved them out. We had to find a location. Our actual first choice of locations was out at the Trojan nuclear plant. They had a little pond out there, and that was kind of our first choice, but that kind of fell through. And the city of Tualatin stepped in and offered us the lake. And it's just been a great relationship and a fun event since then.
I mean, that does sound better than the pond next to the nuclear plant. I will have to admit.
It kind of did. Yeah, we were a little concerned.
So you survived that, although you could grow some probably interesting pumpkins with that. But okay, there's so many questions I have, but I think one of the first ones here is, who was the first one to test this out, to carve out a pumpkin and then say, oh, I'm going to get out on the water with this thing?
You know, that's a great question. I don't really even know the answer to this, other than the founder or the developer of this line of giant pumpkin seeds was Howard Dill, who lives in Windsor, Nova Scotia. He was kind of, we all consider him the grandfather of the Atlantic giant pumpkin. And they actually grew by a location out in Nova Scotia called the Long Pond, which is supposedly the original home of ice hockey in Canada. So my guess is maybe in the summer and the fall that somebody decided to try and float one of these things, and it's just kind of grown from there.
Let's talk about growing the giant pumpkins, because you mentioned, you know, this is something that you were already doing, and then just starting this competition with them. So tell me about the group that's behind that part.
So the event is sponsored by the Pacific Giant Vegetable Growers, which is a club that we founded 22 years ago. Just a bunch of people on the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, California, Idaho. We all kind of have the same common interest of growing giant pumpkins, and it's actually morphed into growing other giant fruits and vegetables that and it's just people that kind of have a little competitive gene, and then they love to garden. So it kind of made a good club out of it. So we're one of probably 50 or 60 clubs around the world, thousands of growers that all kind of do this same thing. And so it's kind of a neat hobby that brings a lot of interesting people together.
I mean, it is fascinating. I've got to ask, so it's a competition. So does everybody kind of have their own secrets of what they're doing to get their pumpkin to grow bigger, or is it a combination of luck or right time of year? Like what's the magic recipe that you can tell me for growing a giant pumpkin?
If I had the magic recipe, it's like we might be having an interview about something else right now. But it's a matter of a lot of different things. Effort's the biggie, but weather, genetics, a lot of nerdy gardening stuff. But there's a lot of factors that all come together in order to just get these things big enough to, show for competition, let alone big enough to paddle around a lake, with you being in it. So, no, it's just a lot of fertilizer, a lot of water, but a lot of luck.
Yep, a combo of all of those things and whatever the
Yep,
weather does.
yep.
So for this year, how is it looking as far as the sizes of the pumpkins?
We had a great year. The beauty of Oregon is, our summers are pretty much dry, so we don't have to deal with a lot of excess water. Because if we get too much rain, these things have a tendency to grow too fast and they'll split or crack. So I think, this year at all of our events, the weights have been good. Matter of fact, there was a new world record set down at Half Moon Bay, California here just a week or two ago at 2,749 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be a little bit too big to row in the regatta, but yeah, I think our weights overall are up this year, so it's good.
So how do you transport these? And I know that's probably territory that's been covered before, but I'm just really interested. Something's, say it's even 1,000 pounds or several hundred pounds. How is it that you're getting that without splitting it or cracking it to say Tualatin?
Well, the people that are, cognizant of how fragile these things can be, we generally put them on a very padded pallet, and that's either using, tractors or forklifts or whatever to get them onto the pallet, but they generally take a pretty soft ride to the way off, and whether it's in the back of your truck or the back of a custom-made trailer. The way people transport these, a lot of different ways, but everybody for the most part treats them with a lot of respect and understand you've spent all these hours growing them. The last thing you want to do is crack them on the way to the way off. So yeah.
That would be the most nerve-wracking part, I think, for me.
It's terrible. It's terribly nerve-wracking, yes.
Well, let's take a look here. I've got some pictures and some videos of this, of the actual competition. So this is in Tualatin,
Yep.
where this takes place. And let's pull this up here. So we're showcasing right now. Tell me what I'm looking at, I guess. Walk us through what we're seeing right here.
So now we're basically getting the pumpkins prepared for the race. So we have to clean them out so people can fit in them. And then just like a boat, you've got to get the ballast right. And because these things don't always just sit nice and level and flush in the water. And then you have a kayak paddle, and you can tell it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do, but and then we just race them around a course in the lake, and trust me, when you get done, it's the last thing you want to do is jump right back in and do it again.
Have there been any incidents of a pumpkin not making it all the way through the race?
Every year. And that's, I liken it to NASCAR. Nobody goes to a NASCAR race to watch everybody finish, right?
Right.
So yeah, we have crashes every year. We even have an award for the best crash amongst the club. So yeah, that's actually kind of the highlight of the race is to see how and when people kind of don't navigate the course. So it's a lot of fun, and we have there's a lot of ribbing when it all gets said and done, but and we've got a lot of safety people there in case somebody has a little trouble getting out of their pumpkin. But yeah, it's a good time.
Well, it's free to the public too. So from what I understand, there's a lot of people that have been showing up at this every year. Can you just talk about
I think
maybe how the crowds have grown over the years?
Yeah, well, when we first started, we had about 15 pumpkins, all growers, and we just got together. And I think the only people actually watching were our families and maybe a few people that just happen to be in the park, to where now we get 20 to 30,000 people around the lake watching the race as we go. And yeah, it's kind of morphed into a really big popular festival and party, if you will, um, in late October. So it's great.
And there's been a lot of, I was reading some of the stuff that you had out, just worldwide participants or people who come in from this from all over the world before.
Yeah, the city actually, they have Heidi Marks, who runs this event for the city of Tualatin. She actually has a lottery that they put out, and you can sign up for the opportunity to uh, row a pumpkin, because we have about 4 heats during the day. And we've had people from Japan, we've had people from Europe, all over the U.S. They fly in just for the opportunity to race in a pumpkin if their name happens to get drawn. So
That's
couple that with the local people that do it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. Well, any other tips you might have maybe out there for somebody who wants to get into growing giant vegetables or fruit and then eventually get into growing giant pumpkins? What kind of advice would you have for them, for the novice out there?
Well, I think the first thing to do would be to get hooked up with our local club, the Pacific Giant Vegetable Growers. The website is www.pgvg.org. There's all kinds of information on there. We make seeds readily available to all of our members. And then we also do a lot of mentorship for people that want to learn how to grow. But we also don't just grow pumpkins. If you don't have a lot of space, we emphasize giant tomatoes, giant watermelons, giant squash, just about any vegetable that you can hybridize. We do it, and so there's something out there for everybody, depending on how big their gardens are.
I would imagine keeping animals away from them is a pretty big challenge.
I had to put an 8-foot electric fence around my garden just to keep the deer out, because they rather enjoy nibbling on these plants, which really can cause a big setback. So yeah, that's always a challenge, is keeping the mice away from the pumpkins.
Oh yeah.
They like to nibble, they like to go under them because it's very safe, and yeah, it's a constant battle.
Yeah, I can only imagine that part of it. But I mean, obviously, you all figure out how to make it through and have this complete. Oh, that's one last question. When do you start growing these?
So we generally start growing them for competition about the middle of April. We start the seeds indoor. Then they'll go out into a cold frame or a greenhouse around the 1st of May. But the interesting thing is, all these pumpkins that you see are generally 90 to 100 days old. So they are growing at their peak growth rate 40 to 50 pounds a day in order to get them as big as they are. Yeah.
That's 40 to 50 pounds a day. These things are growing.
Yep.
Yeah,
because they're only, a 2,000-pound pumpkin's only 100 days old. So, I mean, it literally averages 20 pounds a day from the day you pollinated it.
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah, they're crazy.
After this, I think I'm gonna have to look up some videos, more videos about this. See how fast.
Yeah, we've got lots of videos and pictures on the website, and we've got different members with contact information on there, and yeah, we'd love to hook you up, Greg.
Yes, please do. Yeah, send me an email, because I'll go to the website and take a look at all that.
There you go.
Last thing here for everybody who's watching too, I would just want to emphasize and reiterate when the event is and when people can go there and how they can go participate and watch everything.
Right. So it's going to be at the Lake of the Commons in the city of Tualatin on Sunday, October 22nd. First race, which is the growers race, starts at noon, and they'll have 4 races throughout the course of the day. And if they get enough interest, they might even make a 5th race out of it. Parking is always a challenge because there's so many people. The city has shuttle buses for remote parking to bring you to the event. There is all kinds of food vendors and other vendors around there for you to talk to and visit with. and plus a lot of other games and whatnot that are going on around the lake. So it's a good time for everybody.
It sounds like it. It sounds amazing. And Jim, thank you very much for joining us here, to talk about this, talk about the history of it, and just how this all got going. I mean, I do think you're all just a little bit crazy, but also I kind of want to do it. So I might enter into the lottery for that.
Just say the word, Greg. We will get you in a pumpkin. There's no doubt about it.
All right, I might hit you up on that because that sounds like a lot of fun. Well, Jim, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 12 Now. Really appreciate your time and being here.
You got it. Look forward to seeing everybody out there.
Yep, sounds great. All right, have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks to everybody, too, who's here on Fox 12 Now. So, again, if it's your first time watching, I mentioned it a lot, but I just want to reiterate that as well. We are live streaming on our social media channels. We're on our website. We're on our apps. And so lots of places to find the show. We cover all kinds of topics here throughout the day. So coming up at 1:30, I'm going to have Eric Gordon from Around the House Northwest. So he is going to be joining us to talk about, well, one, a preview of this week's episode, but also talking about fire safety for your house. It is important, especially as, everybody's going to be trying to warm up their house. You want to make sure that everything's safe. So he's got some great advice for that. So he's going to be joining us for that. And one other thing here. So if you're watching on our social media channels, you're going to see this end. Just come back here at 1:30. If you're watching on our website and apps, we're going to continue going. So I'll have a little something here, but that way you don't have to turn it off. And when we get Eric on, we'll just hop right back on. So that's what we're going to be doing. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I will talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.